Today's guest is Michelle Kleger. I met Michelle through a mutual contact of ours in the real estate industry. And while Michelle is not a capital raiser or investment professional, she's extremely well connected in the real estate industry. Michelle's full-time role is SVP of Business Development for Kensington Vanguard, where she provides title insurance to clients for both commercial and residential properties. Michelle also co-founded Girl Gang, which is a professional women's networking group in the commercial real estate industry and has over now 2,000 members. Girl Gang does events. They provide community and support for women in commercial real estate, so definitely check them out. Michelle is a super connector, and she's provided some really great tips and advice for business development and networking in this podcast. I wanted to share this with my audience because I think anyone who's in a client-facing role or business development role could benefit from her advice, whether or not you're in the real estate space. Hope you enjoy the episode. So Michelle, thank you so much for making time to speak with us today. I know you well. For the audience, we did a little intro, but would love to hear more about your journey and what you're currently doing with Kensington Vanguard and Girl Gang. So if you could just give us a little introduction.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. We were joking. I was saying before that I'm typically on the other side interviewing people. So it's fun to be interviewed today. It's something a little different for me. So thank you so much for having me. For those of you who I have never met who are listening, my name is Michelle Kleger, and I am a Senior Vice President of Business Development at Kensington Vanguard, which is a national commercial and residential title insurance company. And then I'm also the co-founder of Girl Gang, which is a 2,000 plus women's real estate networking group. Just to give you a quick history of how I got here, if that's helpful. I actually went to school thinking that I would study hospitality. I went to University of Delaware and I had a degree in hospitality. And I learned my entire time in college that in the hospitality industry, you work a lot of hours and you don't make any money. And so that was a little bit of a turn off to me. And I was like, I'll work a lot of hours, but I want to, make money. So fast forward, I actually did get a job working for Marriott in my senior year of college. So I did that job. I moved back to Boston. I'm from Massachusetts. I worked for Marriott for a year. And during that year, I have an uncle that's in the real estate industry in New York, and he approached me and said, I have an opportunity for you to move to New York and work for a friend of mine who owns an office furniture dealer. I had no idea what that meant, but I wanted to get to New York. I trusted my uncle, and I took a leap and I moved. And I started in like hardcore sales in the real estate industry, like selling office furniture. So when people move offices, they furnish their office space. I was doing business development for that. And it was a really amazing learning experience. It was so hard to sell because there's a lot that goes into the interior world of real estate. I'm not a creative type in that way. So, that was a little bit of a challenge. What I learned from that experience is that I love real estate and I love sales. So then when the next opportunity came along, I was kind of, ready to take the next step. I met Jarrett Fine, the owner of Kensington Vanguard, at the big dinner in New York City, the REBNY Real Estate Board of New York dinner. This is like 2015. And he saw me, working the room, and he knew my uncle and essentially called him up and was like, I want to hire your niece. Will you, introduce her to some of your relationships in the real estate industry? And so I met with him. I loved him. I was ready for the next step. now been at Kensington almost 9 years, which is crazy. But when I got there, I really didn't know again what I was doing. I really like learned on the job, and I trusted the process, and I knew that I liked sales and I loved the real estate industry and I loved the relationship aspect of it. And that is a lot what the title insurance business is. And that's kind of what Jarrett sold me on. And so, 9 years later, I've had an amazing career in this business, my short career so far. And the one thing that I feel like people might take out of this is even if you're not 100% sure of something, like you got to take the leap. Like I didn't know what I was selling in either situation. Like I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I trusted myself and I trusted the process and I figured it out as I went, and it ended up being the right thing. And by the way, the first job led me to the second job. So I never even think that anything was a waste of time, or, it was really all amazing learning experiences, and it's brought me to where I am today, which, is here and loving my role.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you're known as an excellent networker. And what I'm hearing from you too is it sounds like you had those core fundamental business development and networking skills, which allowed you to kind of pivot and navigate your career regardless of what product you're representing. So some of those fundamental networking and biz dev skills is really what I wanted to discuss with you today, and just kind of hear how you've been able to build that skill set. In business development, relationships are everything. What are your key ingredients to building long-lasting, relationships that keep coming back and keep growing for you?
Yes, my role, joke sometimes that that is all this role is. For those of you who don't know, title insurance is something you have to get if you buy, refinance, or get a construction loan on any property anywhere in the country. And there are a lot of companies that are running around trying to sell title because it's a lucrative business, and there's a lot of money that can be made. And it doesn't, as long as you have good service, you're getting the same product at the same price. There's nothing that differentiates one company really from another. Some people say service. I think that you have to, there's much more than that, but it's relationships. That's what it is. It's relationships. Who do you want to work with? Who do you like? Who do you, have a good relationship with? And what value are those relationships bringing to the table? And I learned that very early on in my career. So, like I mentioned, I have an uncle in the real estate industry. I was meeting a lot of his relationships that have 20-year deep title insurance relationships. So here I am coming in trying to, develop relationships with people that already have relationships with people in my space. So what did I do? The biggest lesson that I learned, and I try to pass this along to a lot of people, is figure out how to be helpful, like in whatever way, shape, or form that could be. And so for me, the trick was, okay, I'm going to, develop, meet a lot of people, develop a lot of relationships, but specifically figure out about their business and who I can introduce them to that can be helpful to their business. So, in this case, a lot of times it's introducing, equity to sponsors, JV partners, helping people, and we can get into this a little bit more when I talk about Girl Gang, but I've been able to help companies with hiring. So like the relationship building piece, I think of it a lot as like, what can I do to be helpful? And I think that if you come into it with that mindset, it's an amazing way to really cultivate and develop these types of relationships, especially with people that you don't know. Because, they're now looking to you as someone who's trying to add value as a salesperson instead of someone that's just having their hand out. And it's, I mean, it's worked. It's worked in my career for me. Now, I will also say, Stephanie, which you probably understand a little bit because you're good at this too. Sometimes it's also just who you are. Like, do you like people? Like, is that something, if you're in an industry where, or you're in a role where you're developing relationships with people, I hope you like people. Because there's a lot of people out there that rather not be bothered. They want to sit behind a computer. This is a people business. So it sounds funny, but the fact that I enjoy meeting new people and like I like developing those relationships has been helpful to my career and has been helpful in this relationship type business, right?
Mhm.
And so, I think those are like two of the biggest things that have been helpful to me and to the developing relationships and long-term relationships is really kind of coming at it with the how can I help you? And it's all come back around, to helping me in some way. Typically, it's
Yeah.
happened that way.
I feel like that's such a great approach, really coming to the table with how you can add value for them versus what you can get, because it's kind of a balance, right? But I think that's really a great approach. Do you feel like that approach works for every client, or would you say when you're pitching to a large institutional firm versus like a smaller local developer, does your strategy change slightly or?
No, and the reason I say this is a couple reasons. And this question it was interesting to me because I literally treat every single relationship of mine the same. And I don't know if it's just because of who I am or just how I go about relationships. Like when I meet somebody, like I don't care if they're the, largest, you know, uh, um, owner developer in all of Manhattan, or if they're, just getting started and have a couple buildings. I'm like, how can I be helpful to both of you? Like obviously an institutional, well-established owner, operator, developer has more relationships. So I have to be a little bit more creative. I have to maybe, dig a little bit deeper into really how I can be helpful to them. Maybe it's not the obvious reasons because they already have a lot of those established relationships, but then it's just asking the question, how can I help you? You already have, maybe there are some people, that I can introduce you to that you might not know. A great example is I introduced a really, well-known established developer in Boston to a New York family office, and they did a $700 million deal. So like when
Wow.
I think about that, like not everybody knows everybody. So there's always ways that you can help, but maybe they don't need the same help that the younger up and coming local operator needs, and it's just really then listening to what they want. I think that that's something that people forget to do also is like actually listen. Like sometimes we're so quick and eager to be like, I'll introduce you to all these people and da, da, da. It's like, wait, but do they actually care about that? Like listening to actually what they need and then coming to the table with that is really how to be helpful, right? So I don't really look at any of my relationships differently in that way. It's more so like you give me the information of how I can help, and then I, hopefully can come to the table with something.
Yeah. As far as staying top of mind for your network, so I'm not sure your business, how often transactions happen with your clients to where you're consistently in touch with them, or if you need to, or if you do any, I guess, passive business development with social media or email. Is there anything that you use, tools or strategies that helps you stay more present and top of mind for your network?
I love this question. I love this question for so many reasons. First of all, the real estate industry does not utilize our tools enough. We're getting better, but social media and email marketing is so important, even in like the B2B, world. So a couple things. My like the transactions, so every single deal that I do with a client, it's different than like if you're a property casualty insurance broker and you bring in a client and then they're your client and they renew every year. This is like you're chasing every single deal. So yes, you need to stay top of mind because I could be doing business with you and then you don't do a deal for, maybe 5, 6, 7 months. And then you forget to call me and your attorney maybe places the title order, right? So I definitely need to stay top of mind. I will say that I really like started going deep on the business development fronts with the marketing and the social media maybe like 2-ish years ago. Completely game changer. I mean, I used to say I would be out every night of the week so people would see me. Now I'm out every night of the week, but then people see it all over social media and people are like, "Oh my God, Michelle, you're everywhere. How do you do it?" And it's like, I can't believe I wasn't showcasing this before. Like it's crazy. So I could do a couple things. So post the events that I go to on social media. I do this thing called Title Talk, which, hopefully I'll do a little iteration of this on one of my Title Talks, where I interview people in the industry, prominent names and people within the real estate industry. And I do these quick interviews and I put those on social media, which I think is amazing because people are giving advice and talking about what they do. And I'm showcasing people that I do business with. Like there's so many like great things about that. And then I post everything on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And then I also do a newsletter. And the big thing about the newsletter is I think it's so important to actually, in my seat, what I'm doing, give people things that they actually care about. Like, I don't want to give them like title insurance. Not that they don't want to know about title insurance, but it's not as exciting. They don't maybe care about hearing about title insurance news. I'm giving them on my newsletter. I have, featured title talks from that I've done with industry leaders. I have an events calendar of all of the events that I think are worthwhile and all the conferences, and you can literally click into them and sign up. I have information on Girl Gang and all the stuff that I'm doing with Girl Gang and all the updates that I'm doing with Girl Gang. And so I send that quarterly, and people have told me they love it. I try to put a little something new in there every time. Maybe it's like an update on something with me or something in the industry. But that I think is again been a game changer. And I don't want to blast everybody every second. They don't want to hear from me every second. And on social media, you're getting enough of this my stuff because that's I'm posting weekly. But the newsletter I think is a nice touch, and that goes to everyone in my sales force. So everyone that I've had a conversation with, that I've met with in person, those are the people that are getting that quarterly. And I think it's completely changed the game for me because people forget about me, which is so sad, but it's true. And if I
Yeah.
don't stay top of mind, then I will not potentially get the next deal. So you got
Yeah.
to think of all the different angles, and they work, but you got to put the effort in, and you have to do it. And consistency, you have to do it. Consistency matters.
Consistency, absolutely. And it seems like the quarterly thing is a great balance between reaching out and staying visible versus like being in someone's inbox every week or every day. So that sounds like you figured out the right frequency for your network.
Yeah, and like the one other thing I'll say is some people have said, Michelle, you should send the event calendar monthly because I'm constantly updating it every day. And so that I'm like thinking about maybe having that be something because I do think it's helpful. And it's so funny because when you're in my seat, I'm like, oh, everyone knows all these events that are happening. Like, why would like people don't want to see this, but they don't. Like, it's my job to know all the events. So the fact that I'm able to help people and put it all in one nice, little, commercial observer business, like all the different things going on, I think I've heard that it's been beneficial. So anyway,
Yeah.
that might be something that I start sending out weekly. I mean, I'm sorry, monthly.
Monthly. Yeah. Awesome. Um, talk a little bit more about Girl Gang, how that came to fruition. Yeah, I work a lot in the real estate space too, so it's definitely really cool to see groups like this and networks form with women because there's not too many of us. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about how that started. It looks like the events are really fun. Anything you can
Yeah.
highlight with recent events and future things that you have planned for the group?
Yes, so many exciting things going on with Girl Gang. So definitely happy you asked me about this because it's, especially recently we made some changes, and so I'm really excited about like what's to come. So let me start at the beginning. So Girl Gang was co-founded by me and my partner, a woman named Gabrielle Everett, who works at a company called Mayburn. We met as we joke, we're all great, relationships meet in Vegas at ICSC in 2000, I think 15. I was just starting in the title insurance industry. Gabby did 8 years of her career in fashion and just moved over to work at a mortgage brokerage. And she was, kind of complaining to me a little bit about the fact that there are no women in her office and she doesn't have a lot of women relationships. And she's used to these like really strong women relationships in her, in the fashion industry. And so she knew that I, had a decent amount of women relationships at that point. And she said, why don't we do a dinner and we'll invite all of the women, that we know in the industry, and we'll do a dinner every other month. And so we picked a date, and Gabby and I joke that I have an over inviting problem, and I invited too many people to the first dinner that we changed it to be a cocktail event. And that cocktail event, people loved it. Gabby's really into branding. So she branded it Girl Gang, which we joke that if we thought this was gonna, take off, I don't know if we would have named it Girl Gang, but it is, people remember it. So that helps. So named it Girl Gang. We had like some, marketing around the name, a little logo, and we just started doing these cocktail events every other month. What really changed the trajectory of Girl Gang is the first event that we did that was sponsored. So we had a woman come up to us. She was in the Shack program at NYU and she was working also at Bank of America. And she said, I want to use your roster and do an event. We want to use your membership roster. And we were like, okay. And she did this insane event. She, was at back in the day, Rent the Runway had a flagship store. We shut down Rent the Runway. We had the COO of Rent the Runway speak. It was just like a really cool event. And then after that event, companies kept coming up to us saying, wait, we want to sponsor a Girl Gang event. We want to sponsor. And that just changed everything. Then all of our events were sponsored. We started really, our membership started growing. We have now at this date, we have 2,500 women in Girl Gang. We do 6 events a year in New York. One is always a golf clinic where I give women the opportunity to learn how to play golf with pros. One is always a panel discussion. And then the others are just like, networking events that are sponsored by the real estate companies. Real estate companies have an opportunity to speak about what they do in front of the women, which is great. And then aside from the events, we've also expanded in other ways. We now promote discounts to industry events around the country. It's a weekly email that goes out called the Deal Sheet. It's like a cute name, the deals to events. That goes out weekly. And then we also have another email where we promote job opportunities to the women in the group, and that's called Work It Wednesday. I promote, Gabby and I have promoted over now probably 400 jobs and probably paired up 50-ish women with new roles, which is pretty incredible. So all of these, different things have obviously added a lot of value to the women in the industry. One thing that we were missing is women kept asking us for a list of everybody who's in Girl Gang. Like, oh, we want to meet this person, we want to meet this person. So for the past year, Gabby and I built out an entire virtual community. So think of it as a LinkedIn for women in real estate around the country. And we launched it at our January event. We're calling this whole second version of Girl Gang, it's Girl Gang 2.0. And now there is a little bit of a paywall. So you have to pay a membership. It's yearly. It is so inexpensive because the point of Girl Gang is for women to connect personally and professionally. And we do not want a paywall to stop women from joining. So we made it really inexpensive to have a year-long membership. There's a different rate if you're a student. There's a different rate if you want to be just a virtual member and you're not in New York and you won't be attending the in-person events right now. And so and there will be virtual events. So that is like the new thing that we just launched. There's corporate sponsorship opportunities. If you have, multiple women at your firm that want to join, it is going to be a game changer. And this is going to allow us to expand and do even more stuff. We want to do a mentorship, mentee mentorship type of program. We want to do retreats. I want to do a podcast. There's so much that I want to do, and we can't do it until we get some support from the community and the women in the industry. And this is going to allow us to take it to the next level. So there is so much to come from Girl Gang. This is just the beginning. Like, please, if you're watching and you're interested in learning about, what we're doing, reach out. It is not just for New Yorkers. This is for women in real estate around the country. And we're really excited about what's to come.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to watching it grow, and I'm definitely going to sign up for the virtual. Very cool.
Yay.
Love
You'll
what
love
you're
it. It's
doing
going to be
there.
great. It's really about, in any way, shape, or form, like women coming together and figuring out like how we can help each other, right? And how we can elevate each other in our careers. And that is what Girl Gang is all about. And that's why we started in the first place. And it's really, proven to be something that people want and need. We need to be doing
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. I think this is kind of an interesting question, kind of the reverse. So I would like to understand from you how other professionals in our industry should be thinking about interacting with individuals like you who are a service or product provider. How should they go about thinking on networking with you and building those relationships? I guess I'm saying, like, what could the exponential value be of developing a relationship with you? And I think it's pretty clear at this point, but
So
yeah.
this is a great question because I always say to people, if your service providers are not offering value to you, and besides just the service, unless the service is extremely complicated, but there should be more. Like I hate to say, there's a million real estate attorneys out there. What else is your real estate attorney doing besides being an amazing real estate attorney? There's a million title people. What is your title person doing to add value to your career and your life besides just being, having great service? Every service provider, and I even think of this in my own life, like service providers should be adding value in more ways than one. That's how I think coming out of this, this discussion, I think a big thing is like people should like kind of do a little mental checklist, like what are my service providers doing? Because to just sit around and get handed business, it's just like it's not how it works. Like, I don't think. I think that it takes a lot more hustle than that. There's a lot more that you have to bring to the table these days. It's really competitive. If you're an accountant, if you're an attorney, if you're an architect, you got to be bringing more to the table. One thing that I would also mention is that your service providers should also be very good networkers, or they should have something that they're bringing to the table. And why I say that is a lot of ways that besides making introductions and trying to be helpful in that way, a lot of my relationships will come to events that I go to because they know that they'll meet people when
Mhm.
they're at an event with me because I know a ton of people, right? So it's just being smart. It's like, okay, Michelle, are you going to this event or are you going to that event? Because I'm going to go to the one that you go to because I know you know a lot of people and I'll just walk around with you and meet a ton of people. And it's true. And there are a lot of other service providers that can offer similar, and they should be able to because that's, again, our job is to really be out there and know a lot of people, at least in the title space. Like that is a big piece of the puzzle and what people look to me for and really where I'm valuable. Maybe other people bring other things to the table, but that's what set me apart. And so I've been able to help a lot of people when it comes to events and even just, I know it sounds funny, but having people comfortable at events. Like events are where I thrive. Some people like networking is not their thing. They're more introverted. Find an extroverted person that probably is in a business development role and go to events with them. You will have a world of a difference just with your comfort and the people you meet by kind of partnering yourself with someone who's a little bit more extroverted than you. And why not? We're all out there and we want to help. So just another little thing to think about in the back of your mind.
As the world has kind of shifted more virtual and a lot of online meetings, Zooms like this versus in person, it seems like you've done a really great job of staying visible in person and getting out there every day, meeting people. But when you are forced, I guess, when you have no other option to meet them in person, how do you develop trust and rapport with people, virtually? Say you've got a client on the West Coast or something like that where you don't get to meet them in person, or even Zoom. Sometimes clients just prefer phone and email. So just curious how you've been able to bridge those relationships.
Another great question for my industry because before COVID, I never thought that I could develop a relationship with someone across the country the same way that I can in New York because the title business is so relationship oriented and is a lot of like going out and lunches and getting together and developing that rapport. COVID forced us, right, to have to figure out. I learned how to sell on the phone. I mean, I like didn't know how to do it before COVID. And really the thing, and I kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but the thing that I go back to, because this is really how I've been able to develop the relationships, is figuring out ways to be helpful. So I meet someone at an event. They live in California and I want to establish a relationship with them. That I'm then getting on the phone, learning what they focus on, and then I'm like, great, I have all these people that can be helpful to you that you should meet. I'm going to start making introductions. And then I start making introductions for them. So if you think the timeline, I'm in touch with them all because I'm making introductions, then I follow up with them. follow up is, we didn't talk about follow up yet. Follow up is so important. Then I follow up on those introductions. How were those introductions? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, are you going to any conferences? Are you ever coming in New York? Like, then, you try to see them maybe, and then you're like, great, who else can I introduce you to? Or what are you working on that I can help with? And it kind of starts to you're building that rapport because you're introducing them hopefully to people that are beneficial for them and that could be, helpful to their careers. And then the relationship, and by the way, which you kind of forget about, when they're on the phone with that person you introduced them to, they're probably mentioning you. So it's like another little, so it's like all these different things. And that is how I built relationships with people around the country. And that's how I've stayed top of mind with them is by, again, figuring out that initial call is so important. That initial call after you meet somebody is so important because that's when you learn. Like you go to an event and you don't follow up with someone and have a call with them one-on-one or a meeting, but if call, then why go to the event? You need to get on the phone, learn what they do, learn how you can help, and then that's where the real relationship building starts. And I do it really by figuring out how to be helpful, utilizing the people that I know. And that's worked. And that's worked. And that's, I joke that I did business with people that I never met in person. And then in the title business, I feel like that was absolutely unheard of until COVID. And so if one good thing came out of COVID for my business is I learned how to develop those relationships without being directly in front of someone.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on with follow-up in that process or any mistakes you see people make with business development processes?
So it was funny, like when I was thinking about this discussion, I just like making notes. I wrote follow up down like a million times. The biggest mistake that people make is there are a couple things, and this happens in every part of someone's career. This happens when you're young and you feel like you don't want to be annoying. This happens when you go to a conference and you either get too busy, you don't have someone to delegate it to or to help you. It's just, it happens everywhere. And I talk to some of the most senior established people and they're like, oh, I forgot. Like, it's just when you're a salesperson, that is so much of your job that you learn how to do and you learn processes that work for you. So if you go to an event and you get first of all, if you go to an event and you don't ask for people's information, you might as well stay home. Because how are you going to follow up with people? You have to feel comfortable. And sometimes it's reframing it in your mind. Like people are like, oh, like they're going to think I'm going to annoy them. No, no, no. When you speak to someone, if I met you at an event and then I didn't ask for your information, you're going to think that I never want to talk to you again. Like that's rude. You have to like reframe it in your mind. If people are like, I don't have a card, I'm like, great, what's your email? And I write it in my phone. You have to follow up with people and you have to if you're in the business development seat or if you're in the seat where you need something, you have to get their information. If you give them your card, you're giving them work to do. No good. Get their information and then follow up and do it like it doesn't have to be the next day, but do it in timely, next week, and then and hopefully kind of remind them where you met them. And then the key is, this is the other key, if they don't answer the first email, follow up again. And if they don't answer the second email, follow up again. Now, the one thing I am big about, I usually follow up 3 times and I usually space it out because people are busy and I'm not going to follow up and then follow up 3 days later. I usually won't even do a week later. I'll do a couple weeks and I follow up again. And then on the last follow up, and this is something people are new to sales, write this down. The last follow up, I kind of mentioned that I'm done following up. Like I'm like, checking in one last time because then a lot of people respond. They're like, oh, she's up. Like, hey, Michelle, like it's so crazy how many times I get a response on the last follow up. You can't be scared and people want to get on the phone. They're just busy. They have a million emails. They missed it. They deleted it by accident. 3 times usually, then they're not, after the third time, then they're not interested. And that's also fine because maybe they have another title relationship that they're not willing to part from. That's also okay. So like I think the rejection part scares people so much. We gotta get over the rejection piece.
Yeah.
And you gotta reframe it in your mind. Like people want to help and people want to develop relationships. And even when you're young, there's always something that you can potentially bring to the table. So don't think, oh, I'm annoying and I have nothing to, no, you don't know until you get on the phone with someone. So
Yeah, absolutely. You don't know what part of the process they're in on their end, if it's valuable to them now or later, but it sounds like that last email is a good tip too. It just allows them to at least check in with you and give you a reason to why, the timing might not be perfect to engage further right now, but at least the connection has been made. Um,
I get
that's
so much rejection. I mean, I'm like the queen of rejection. I have so many people that don't answer me, and I don't care. It's fun. Like
yeah,
it's a numbers game when you're in this business, and you need to not, you can't take things personally. Um, sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I had such a great conversation with that person in person. I'm like, and I have no response, but whatever. Next, on to the next. You don't know the reason behind it. You don't know what's going on in someone else's life. They just might not have time for it right now, and that's okay.
yeah,
There's a million fish in the sea.
exactly. Um, I guess on a more personal note too, because this gets really into what you were just talking about. I think it's a nice segue into this topic. A lot of that is self-growth and self-development and not taking things personally and having a resilient mindset. Are there things that you can point to that drive you personally and professionally to succeed? You mentioned, early in your career, you wanted to add value and be successful, not just add tons and work hard and not be rewarded financially too. So that's a motivating factor. But anything else that you aspire to with your career, personally, professionally?
I think that people in life want a purpose. They want to wake up every day and feel like they're accomplishing something. They want to love what they do. I think that a lot of people go through life and don't have passion in something that they're doing. And I think that that's a shame. I think that like if you're listening and you're not passionate about your job, or like it doesn't even have to be like your specific like tasks in your job. I mean, hopefully it's a piece of it, but find that like thing that like makes you excited and lean into that. Because like and I got this advice from people, much more established and smarter than me, but like when you love and are passionate about what you're doing, the rest falls into place because it's easy, it's fun, and people feel, the passion from you, and it resonates, and they want that too, right? So it's just, if you can find that thing that makes you excited to get up in the morning. And not every day is amazing, and not every situation is great, and not every piece of my job is fun, but overall, like the day to day and the focus of what I do is on people and meeting people and developing relationships, and that brings me joy. So, I think that that's the biggest thing is people are like, well, I don't like my job. Well, what makes you excited and what drives you? You have to figure that out, and then I feel like everything falls into place. You mentioned a little bit on like the personal growth and development. I'm like really, really in tune with that. Like my entire career, I work with a business coach. I've worked with business consultants. I'm really into improvement. How can I do this better? How can I create processes around this? And I think that that has been really amazing to me in my career. If you're, younger and you're watching this and you feel stuck, the best thing that I could say is invest in you. And when I say that, hire a coach, hire someone who can help you figure out where to go next, because it's profound, and people are a little bit like turned off about it because they're like, oh, I don't need that, or I don't need to like talk to someone. If you take 1 hour a month and like kind of talk about your business and things that are going right and things that are going wrong, you would be shocked with how much you can learn and come up with in that hour, and like that like can really change the trajectory of your career. So I'm really big about like personal development and investing in yourself. And I started investing the dollars into a coach before I could maybe really like afford it per se. But I joke that I will literally, she can never not be a coach because she's part of my life, right? And it's been that profound, for me. So I think that's just an important piece to touch on.
Absolutely. And whether it's from your coach or other mentors that you've had, family, friends, can you think of one piece of advice or a tip that you've received that you still kind of implement on a regular basis? it can relate to networking or just life generally.
So you just touched on something that I didn't really talk about that much yet, and I think that this is very important. You touched on mentorship. Mentorship is you need to meet someone that has done it, that has been through it, that will teach you what not to do. I have some insane, amazing mentors in my life, and it is helped me get to the next level in so many ways. I look back and a lot of what I do now, especially with the girl gang, and is want to give back because of how much influence and positive mentors I've had in my career. And the piece of advice that I would tell you for that is, you know, find someone that cares about the trajectory of where you're going. And it could be for a reason that maybe they benefit in some way, shape, or form. Like, so a boss, right? I think that's a lot of times like the perfect mentor because of the relationship of if you do well, they typically do well. And then you find someone maybe that's not, correlated in that way, that just you can bounce ideas off of, that maybe is in a similar, line of work to you. And what I would say about that is also people want to be mentors because they had mentors. So, you'd be like, oh, well, I don't want to annoy. Like, how do I find someone? And sometimes it can grow organically. Sometimes you can do it in a professional setting, like ULI has mentorship programs. Girl Gang wants to start a mentorship program. There's a lot of other real estate organizations that have these like actual formal programs. But that, I mean, mentorship is so important in any line of business. So I would, if you don't have, some type of mentorship, I would definitely look into that. And if you're, a little bit more established in your career and you're like, ooh, I haven't really like thought about that, do it because it's so profound and it's so helpful for the next generation.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that offer from Girl Gang too. So really looking forward to that platform. Um, I guess, probably a good stopping point here. Where can people find out more about you? How can people contact you? Where should we direct the audience?
Yes. So thank you, first of all, so much for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about this. I'm very passionate about networking and my industry and also obviously women in the industry. So a couple things. First, I'm in title insurance sales. If you're buying, refinancing, getting a construction loan on any property anywhere in the country, I can help. Residential, commercial, and like I've explained on this discussion, how I build that rapport and how I, get business is I really help put deals together. So introducing equity to sponsors, JV partners, debt, however I can be helpful utilizing my relationships, I try to do that. So if I can be helpful to anyone listening in any of those ways, and then of course, Girl Gang is just growing, from where we are. We are so excited of where it's going. If you are a woman in the industry looking to get involved or aspiring, to be in the real estate industry, we have student rates. Also, please reach out. If you're a company that has a lot of women that you would like to have this community, please reach out. If you're interested in sponsoring an event, doing a corporate sponsorship for Girl Gang membership, please reach out. We have a lot of different partnerships. And then if you're hiring, I mentioned that we promote jobs to Girl Gang. Please reach out. I just have jobs against 2,000 women, and you never know, where you're gonna find your next hire. And this is definitely a great place to look. So all of these different reasons, please reach out to me. And if I can just be helpful to anybody listening in any way, shape, or form, I would love to. And I don't know if you share my information or my LinkedIn or my email, but I am open to anybody, and would love to connect.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yep, I'll link everything below in the show notes to Girl Gang, to your email, your LinkedIn, and yeah, we'll make sure people can find you. Thank you so much for the time, Michelle. Great seeing you.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
absolutely.